It might be August, but I'm still sowing seeds to give us food through autumn and winter and even into next spring. In today's video, we shall look at 3 seeds that you could be sowing right now. We grow food in our garden all year round using the no-dig method. It's hot and it's busy, not least with the harvests. But the things that we sow today, we shall enjoy on our plate through the autumn months, the winter months and the summer months. We begin with sowing our overwintering onions. Now, whenever we talk about overwintering onions, it provokes quite a debate and there are many comments that come along. It appears that many of you don't really have much success in growing your overwintering onions, or you don't regard them as a crop worth growing. But to myself and Mrs. W, they are. The area that we have to grow our food in, including the polytunnel and the greenhouse, is around about 1,000 square feet. That's less than a half-size allotment, so we have to be clever. If I wanted to grow enough onions to last us the whole year, assuming that they store all that time, then it would take up quite a lot of the plot. And of course we have many other things that we want to grow. So to help us with that, we grow our overwintering onions. They become available for harvest in June and through July and August, depending on when you sow them and what varieties you are growing. And that's really good for us because our main crop onions tend to harvest between mid and late July, and they will keep us going because we want the others to cure. I don't really want to use too many of our freshly harvested onions. The idea of those is that they see us through the autumn and winter period. Some of the reason why you may not have had too much success may be the method you're using. Maybe you're not sowing them at the right time. Maybe you're using the wrong varieties. So, for example, we used our Globo onions last year for overwintering. I'd read that you could use them for overwintering. And they produced onions, but they were really quite small. They're healthy, but they were really quite small. So for me, they're not really an onion that I can overwinter. So this year we're going back to the Saint Shoe. I do know that these are reliable performers. Now they want to be sown mid to late August, no later than the end of August. And that's because they need time to, once you transplant them out, to get their roots down, and they'll get themselves to a certain size. And then as we enter the cold winter period, which for us is the turn of the year, round about the turn of the year, they almost go to dormancy and hardly grow whatsoever. And then when February comes around and the light levels begin to increase and the temperatures begin to increase, they get away incredibly quickly and can grow away, and that's why they can give us an earlier harvest than our main crop onions that we shall sow. We multi-sow our onions and we're aiming for 5 to 6 seeds per cell. Don't worry if you get slightly more than 6. You'll be thinning them down anyway once they get to salad onion size. My top tip for when you're growing overwintering onions is that when you get to that cold time of the year, and for us that's around about the turn of the year, cover them. Because all the rain and the cold winds and the frost that you get, they can cause mildew, and the mildew will only start to rot your plants away. For me, I always use mesh You can use fleece, but I just find that with a mesh, the air circulation is just that bit better, and it allows more of the rainfall through to keep them well watered. And in effect, all you're doing is creating a little mini climate. Onions hate the cold winds, for example. They really don't like that at all. It does more damage to them than a frost. What I would say is to put them over hoops. What you don't want is the mesh or the fleece laying on top of the leaves of your young plants, because that will only exacerbate the aforementioned problems of mildew and your onions rotting before you even get a chance to eat them. The other thing I would say is that once you have that mesh on over those hoops, do not remove it until at least mid-May. Why? Allium leaf miner might be about. The next thing we want to be sowing are our salad spring onions. We've already said that our overwintering onions will not come to harvest until June and July. But what if our main crop onions run out in March or April or May? How do we get an onion taste then? Salad spring onions. They're fantastic for overwintering, and here in our no dig Norfolk garden, they're ready to harvest from April onwards. If we have a favourably mild winter, we could even be harvesting those during the month of March. I sow a lot of these. It's the biggest sowing of salad onions that we do. The rest of the year, they're sown in small batches. But at this time of the year, I need to get them in now so that they can overwinter, and then we can enjoy their harvest next year. Creating a bridge between when our main crop onions are exhausted and the overwintering onions become ready. We multi-sow our salad onions, and we're aiming for 8 to 9 seeds per cell. And that gives you a nice clump of onions. And when you come to harvest them, you can just harvest the whole clump out together. And with the leaves and everything, it's going to be the equivalent of a small bulbed onion. So we will still have that onion taste, even though we don't have any more bulbed onions left. Of course, what you do need to do is to grow the right varieties, and for us, that variety will always be Guardsman. It's a fantastic salad onion. It overwinters really well. Whatever the winter seems to throw at it, it survives. And just like their bulbing onion counterparts, it's a good idea to cover those when we get to the coldest and wettest time of the year. We don't want them being attacked by mildew either and rotting off. We want them to push through and see themselves through to that spring harvest. I can assure you that these methods work. The covering of them really does help, and is quite essential. We used to do that for many years until we moved here and we had a greenhouse. Of course, we've now got a polytunnel. The bulbing onions I grow actually in the polytunnel now, but I actually still do grow the salad onions outside. That's because I grow a lot of them. You can also be planting up some more potatoes to give you a harvest later on in the year. And if you can avoid the blight, it's a really lovely, fantastic surprise when you go to harvest your potatoes through November and December. Now, they do need to be either first earlies or early maturing second earlies. And in that way, they'll be ready at that time of the year for you. There will come a point, of course, when you will need to protect them from the frost. Frost will come at some point during the year. We don't tend to see really harsh ones until the turn of the year, once we get into January. But we do get the odd rue frost that will come along during November and December. And I remember a couple of 3 years back, we had a real good frost, didn't we?
We did, yeah. Yeah.
And everything was frozen solid in the ground. So, you know, they can happen. So do keep an eye on the forecast. And what I would recommend is that if you're going to grow potatoes in the second half of the growing season, do use the containers, because you can always move the containers. Keep an eye on the weather. If you find out it's going to be frosty, you can just pick those up and put them into an undercover space. For us, it will be the greenhouse or the polytunnel. If you don't have any of those undercover structures, you can always put them in a shed. So don't grow too many. 4 or 5 containers will give you quite a few potatoes at the back end of this year, and you haven't got too many to move into your undercover spaces. You could of course cover them with fleece if it's not going to be a really bad frost, but I have to say I've found over the years when I've done that, they've still got hit by frost. It may mitigate how strong the frost hits them, but normally when I take the fleece off, you still find that they've gone really quite black where the fleece has been resting on top. So I would always say, if you can, try and move them into an undercover space. You can always bring them out again once the frost has disappeared out into the light. It's really simple to plant your potatoes into containers. Just fill the container up 1/3 full and drop 2 potatoes in with the chits uppermost, and then fill it up by another 1/3 and add another 2 potatoes. Only this time put them in the opposite directions so that they're not on top of each other and trying to grow on top of each other. Top it off with some more compost, leaving it about 1 inch from the top so that you can water, and if you need to, add some mulch. I talked about quite a few things that can help you in your quest to continue growing food, whether that be mesh, fleece, the piping, stakes, the 30-litre containers. And if you haven't got those and you're thinking you might want to invest in some of those, then do check out the links in the description and they will take you to where we purchased them from. So we have sown our overwintering onions, overwintering salad onions, planted some potatoes so that we got some later harvests, and all of that means that we have food that will be available to us, some of them in autumn, some of them in winter, some of them next year. It's nice, simple and easy, and that's the way we do it here in our Newdig Norfolk garden. Now do let us know, what's the one thing that you will sow this week or plant this week? Or if there's more than one, let us know the rest of them too. We do love to get your comments. And if you're thinking, I haven't planned for this and I don't really know what I can be sowing, well, we made a video, 21 seeds to be sowing in the month of August. So check that out next.